Just how Tony got his leopard camp 10 years later is a story that begins in Paris in 1980. Jean-Louis Guéraud was a bartender who had worked in a bar in Paris where two African leopards, a male and a female, had been kept in a cage to attract customers. When the bar went out of business, Jean-Louis bought them for himself. He now kept them at his home. He never allowed them to breed. He didn't want to be responsible for more captive leopards that would never know freedom. Adamson and Tony had asked an old friend, Air France pilot Michel Jeanniot, to find some leopard cubs for them in Europe. After a fruitless search among zoos and circuses, Michel heard about Jean-Louis and his leopards.
And I phoned this man, Jean-Louis Guéraud, and explained my problem. And he said me, oh, it's wonderful. I keep together the male and the female. And 3 months after, two cubs was born near Paris. And 2 months later, I brought them in a basket for pussycat and carry with me in the cockpit. And I came to Nairobi. When I arrived at Kora, at the airstrip, Tony has picked up me, and when I saw Tony, I said, Tony, I have two leopards in my basket. But Tony don't believe me and said me, oh, come on, Michel, come on. It's not true, it's impossible. And I answered, but really, Tony, I have two leopards in my basket. And I opened the basket, and Tony saw the leopards, and he said, oh, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. And it was his birthday. Tony, yes, it's Tony's birthday.
Tony's dream had come true. Leopards had come back to Kora. In these 8mm films taken by Michel Jeanniot, the cubs are obviously frightened and bewildered. Born in captivity, not yet 2 months old, separated from their parents. The long process of rehabilitating them to the wild had barely begun. They remained in Tony's room for the next 2 weeks while he completed their cage and built a hut for himself below Kamunyu Rock, 8 miles from the camp he had shared with George Adamson for 10 years. They called the new place Kampi Chui, the camp of the leopard. The male cub was named Attila, after a dog Tony had owned as a boy, and the female after the massive rock behind the camp, Kamunyu. Tony recalls his first few months with the cubs.
They were so small and so frightened in the early days. I was terrified every time they scratched themselves that there'd be something wrong, but they proved to be very hardy. They took to the cave in the back part of their first boma very quickly, more or less hid in the cave throughout the whole of the day. To make contact with them, I'd feed them in the evening and they'd come out and eat and then hide again. For the first 3 months, I had to go in during their main playtime, which was about midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, till about 4 or 5 in the morning, and just sit there quietly, waiting for them to approach me. They were very different from lion cubs, inasmuch as they wouldn't readily, you can hardly say tame down, but they were just quite happy with their own company. There were 2 of them, which is always important with young cubs. You don't really learn much from doing one animal on its own and putting an imprint of you on it. And I wanted to be as quiet as possible for them to come to me, rather than me enforce 10 years of being a lion on them. It took me something in the region of 5 months before I can honestly say I made contact and understanding with them. The main difficulty really was the forming of the relationship, because I wanted it to be on a total equal level, and on a total friendship level as well, without me having to use sticks or bluff or anything like that. It was evident after the first few months how very different the personalities of Attila and Kampi were. Kampi, the female, was very affectionate, very outgoing. She had little brown eyes, whereas Attila had green. But she was always the leader. Attila is a much more solemn, stable personality, not given to, well, the frivolous behavior of Kampi. He's a very strong individual, much more balanced personality than the fun-loving Kampi.